Welcome. I'm Kinetic Symphony. I hunt down and report on mysterious and weird, true stories, from glitches to the paranormal. Case file number 767, written by 3Candidate 838. I'm the Multiverse Thief. Okay, so I got a Scarlet Witch Funko gifted to me a while ago. I adore that Funko and would have it on display in my room. A couple months after it was gifted to me, I moved apartments with my grandma's help. When we were getting to the new apartment, she's carrying my box with my Funkos inside, a very small collection, around 7 at the time if I'm not mistaken. She looks down at the box and then straight up into my eyes with this huge, regretful look on her face, so I just ask what's wrong. She picks up a Wanda from the box and I see her original box is all mushed. Maybe another box or some furniture was placed on top. I was mad at first, but I can't be mad at my grandma, so I just opted for keeping her out of the original box and throwing out the original box since it was really damaged. Fast forward a couple months and I'm moving again, this time by myself, no help. I pack everything up and load it into my car. I get to my new apartment and start unpacking. I open the box containing my Funkos and first thing I see, right at the top, a Scarlet Witch inside of her box. It looked kinda damaged, but not as I remember. I thought to myself, maybe I didn't actually get rid of the original box or something. I finish unpacking the rest of them, and right at the very bottom of the box I see her, Wanda. Looking right into my eyes, boxless as I actually remember seeing her. I took a second look, thinking maybe I confused the first Funko. Nope, also Wanda. I start thinking, maybe there's an explanation to this. So I called Grandma, thinking maybe she felt so bad for what happened that she actually tried to replace the original. But just as I thought, Grandma has no idea where or how to purchase a Funko Pop, nor does she have the money to buy one. She's been struggling financially, and I've been helping her. Plus, even if it was her, I packed that box myself, alone in my previous apartment, and it was by my side all the way to my new apartment where I unpacked it also by myself. One thing that is very important to clarify is that both versions of the Funko Pop are imported from the same store, meaning they were not purchased in my home country. The sticker is even placed on the same corner of the box if I remember correctly. Now I'm scared that me from another dimension is missing his Funko Pop. Case notes for file 767. I'm the Multiverse Thief. So my first thought was along the lines of what you were thinking, that your grandma somehow felt bad for breaking the Funko and tried to buy a new one. But as you say, she said she didn't. She's struggling financially. Also, the one that you found was slightly still damaged. So unless she went out to buy a used one, which would be a bit weird, it doesn't seem likely to be the explanation. It could be some entity that saw it. Maybe some entity was observing this interaction and witnessed what happened and then said, just felt bad for you. It's one thing to think about, that maybe most people who die do remain at least as fragments and echoes behind, spirits. They just choose not to make themselves known, or they're not able to, until specific moments or triggers happen, like computer code, if, when, etc. So something has to happen first, like seeing someone suffer. Even if it's not great suffering, it's still suffering. So they saw that, and then brought in another Funko from some other place. Like you say, maybe from a different dimension or alternate universe. Maybe that it's easier for spirits to move between them. That could actually explain some disappearing object phenomena. Maybe these entities are moving property around like Robin Hood style and giving to the needy. It's a new form of welfare, I guess. Bonus file, written by Astraldejections, the House of Pure Evil. All of this occurred in Oklahoma. When I was 12, my mom got with a guy. He was a despicable human being. I say it was because he's dead and I'm glad as hell. But anyways, we quickly moved in with him, like within a month. He had just broken up with his ex and had 2 kids who he barely saw anymore. They came over every other weekend, I think, but that is relevant. My stepdad's mom told me about that house. She said she had experienced weird things there and that my stepdad's ex had too. That his ex would tell her she came home and all of the kitchen cabinets would be wide open. Stepdad's mom said she would babysit, and early in the morning she would hear children's footsteps, so she'd go to check on the kids, but they would be sleeping. One of his kids said that in his old room, which became mine, he would hear scratching in the walls. Could have been rodents, but I don't think so. So like I said, I got to my stepbrother's old room. The first night I stayed there, I woke up and was diagonal across the bed. I remember this so vividly, and I always have. My head was tilted up. I opened my eyes and there was a little boy in the corner, on the ceiling. Not hanging upside down or anything, just sitting as if there was a surface to be sat on, pressed into the corner of the ceiling. He looked normal. He was wearing modern clothes, a tan shirt and green shorts. He looked about 8. I absorbed all this information in a second because when I gasped and blinked, he was gone. But it felt like a million years. My door was open and led into the hallway. It was a big hallway, wide, bigger than my entire room. There was a lamp in the hall. I saw a man's shadow step across the hall. Did not see the man, and it wasn't a shadow person, it was just a shadow. There was no one in the hall. I don't even remember if I was able to go back to sleep or if I stayed awake, but I was absolutely terrified. I hated that room. The whole house always felt weird, kind of sticky. Not the surfaces, the air. Not like humidity though. Sticky isn't the right word, I guess. Kind of grimy. Anyways, after I begged to sleep on the couch, I got to sleep for a while. After that, I started staying at relatives' houses, even my grandpa's house, which at the time also had minor spooky crap happening, yet still was preferable. I stayed with my grandma and grandpa all the time. I also went to a school that was residential during the weekdays for kids who lived far away because it was a school for visually impaired kids and took students from all over the state. Sometimes, they'd let day students stay the night if the dorm wasn't full and if you were a good kid. I'd been doing that since I was very little, but I started doing it as much as the school would allow. It couldn't be residential because I lived in town though. Basically, I avoided being in that house, and when I was in it, I'd try my best to sleep on the couch. I wouldn't even go in my room during the day if I could help it. When I did have to sleep in there, I was so scared. Sometimes I'd hear voices, but just at the edge of my hearing. They always sounded like kids. I don't remember most of what I heard, but I remember hearing, "Stop," and my name occasionally too. They never sounded frantic, mostly monotone. One time I was laying down, taking a break from doing my homework and laying with my eyes closed. I remember feeling a weight near my head, and I opened my eyes to see a black skirt, like a little girl, was sitting next to my head. But when I sat up, there was nothing. I was always scared. I never felt warmth or playfulness, like some people say they do with kid ghosts or whatever. Only fear. But then I was also a kid. That room always had a dark shadow casting from it. Partly it was the structure of the house, but it was too freaking dark. When my step-siblings were over, sometimes my step-brother, who was young, around 6 or 7 at the time, would mess with me. One day, I was sitting in my room. I think I was reading. I usually stayed outside or in the living room if I was alone, but my mom and stepdad were home and I hated being around them, and the kids were running in and out of the house, so I didn't go outside because I didn't want to be roped into playing with them. My stepbrother came into my room to mess with me. Now, I wasn't very playful with them usually due to depression, but if they sought me out, I would. So we play wrestled a bit and he left. A few minutes later, my stepdad stormed in asking why I had thrown this big plastic toy I had at him. I was confused because I didn't, but apparently it had flown out of my room and knocked him on the head after he left. Obviously, it seemed like I threw it at him, but I didn't, I swear. I got in trouble for that one. I threw that damn horse away. I think something followed me around. There were 3 experiences I had outside of the house, but while we lived there. One was just a very vivid nightmare while I was sleeping at school. It felt real, I remember that, but I don't remember much of the nightmare. It took place in the school I was in, and I remember it being dark and empty, but that's all I recall. The next time was when I was sleeping at my grandma's. She always kept a little light above the sink on at night. With the layout of the house, I could see the doorway of the kitchen from where I slept on the couch. I remember seeing a shadow, Again, it looked like a man's shadow. Then I heard a dragging noise, like someone dragging something heavy across the tile. But her kitchen was tiny. There was no space to drag anything, just the noise. The third and final time I was staying in my grandma's camper. We were at some sort of redneck event. My grandma went to a lot of those. Anyways, I was by myself. She was out socializing. I got a dreadful feeling, and then the camper started shaking, like vibrating. I remember a few things falling to the floor. Then it stopped, but the feeling didn't. So I went outside and sat with my grandma. I had told my mom about this stuff. I got sent to a child psychiatrist. They thought I was hallucinating. He found nothing wrong with me other than some irrelevant diagnoses: anxiety, depression, and ADHD. The next time I stayed in that room was the last. I had brought a Bible in because I was religious at the time. I sat with the light on. Hell, I slept with the light on. And I was reading my Bible. And then something started freaking breathing in the wall behind me. Oh God. Raspy, loud breathing in the wall. I just left my room and slept on the couch. When I did that without asking, I got in trouble in the morning, but I did not give a crap that night. I was away for about 2 weeks after that night, staying with relatives and at the school. When I came home, I suddenly did not have to sleep in that room anymore. No one told me why. I got moved to a storage room, and damn, I was happy about that. It had smelled like wood chips and the walls were all busted up and unpainted, but I did not care. I was so happy. Some weird crap happened there too, but nothing as bad. Some shadows on the wall and something consistently darted around the floor and then retreated under my dresser. It was all black and about the size of a young rat, but whenever I shined a flashlight under the dresser, there was no rat. Still could have been, I guess, but I don't think it was. It was also way too fast. I keep rats. I've seen them run. They don't run that fast. It made me uneasy, but not the terror that I felt in that room. Sometimes at night, it would sound like someone was walking right outside my door, which was freaky. I'd rather be in there than in the other room. I still avoided the house with school and relatives when possible, but overall was a huge relief. Anything but that room. I'd rather sleep in a dumpster. I avoided the house less for spooky reasons and more to be away from my mom and stepdad. A while later we moved. We moved to Texas in an RV, but still owned the old house. One night it was just my stepdad and I on the couch. I asked him why I got to move rooms. Keep in mind, this guy was a freaking monster. A horrendous excuse for a person. He abused me in so many ways, and recently, I had a discussion with my mom about him, and she revealed that the reason she even let me stay away from home so long with relatives was because she was scared of him. She said he would come home covered in blood in the middle of the night sometimes. But as he started to tell me, he cried. I had never seen him cry before, ever. The only emotion I ever saw from him before and after that was anger. But in that moment, he cried. He told me that he and my mom had gotten into a fight and he had slept in my room while I was away. He told me that he heard a man's voice talking about protecting the children. He said he saw a shadow on the wall of a man holding a rifle. He said there was more, but that he didn't want to say what else happened. There were tears running from his eyes. He wasn't kidding whatsoever with me. When we came back to Oklahoma after he got fired from his job in Texas, we moved into a different house. I have no idea how they got that house, especially while still owning the old one because we were poor as hell. We weren't even middle class, literally no clue. I know there was some sort of drama around it, but I don't know how they got that house. When we went to get the rest of our stuff from the old house, my sister's baby blankets were not where they should have been. They were in the closet of that goddamn room. They were left in my mom's closet. No one ever went in that room. No one put them there. I know I never mentioned my sister. Nothing really happened with her that I remember, but my mom had a baby with my stepdad shortly after we moved in, thus sister. I don't know what the hell was up with that house. I don't know if whatever was in there wanted to physically harm anyone or if it was just wanted to scare the crap out of us, especially me. I don't know the significance of that room. I don't know if the two children were little kid spirits or something pretending to be them. I don't know if it was just one entity or multiple. I don't know anything. Nothing weird or paranormal has happened to me since we got out of that house. I'm just glad nothing came with me since it seemed to follow me occasionally while we lived there. I found the address and looked it up. No one owns it now, and it's in foreclosure. The pictures give me a pit in my stomach. It's so dark inside. I've been inside an empty house with no electricity, and it just looked darker than even that, though that definitely could just be camera quality and nothing spooky. Truly foreboding. It was built in 1955. That's all the info I can find. Case notes for the bonus file. The House of Pure Evil. That is an interesting point though, the fact that it did follow you once, whatever this entity was, out of the house, but didn't follow you when you moved out of state. Is there a geographic limit? It couldn't go there, or it just accomplished its mission? I also have to say that I have a deep dislike for parents who don't trust their kids, or at least take them somewhat seriously. I think that can lead to serious developmental issues. You need to trust your kids, or at least make it seem like you value and respect what they're saying. Even if they're just kids, and obviously they'll be wrong a lot, you still need to respect them. Very important. I'm not a dad yet, but I think it's very important. I wonder if there was some sort of amplification effect from your dad's aura or spirit. Something was there, channeling through him, and through him was amplifying these negative effects around you. But then why specifically the one room? You did say you had different effects in other rooms, but it was just that one specific room that had something going on. And then your dad went in there after he fought with your mom, and he experienced something that he wouldn't even share in full with you. So much that it made him cry, even though, as you describe him, to be a monster. Whatever it was, I'm glad you got out. I for sure would never go in that room. Not for any amount of money.